When we got to basically me heading into the final stages of labor, I knew that, and this is with Arie, so getting into the birth phase, my emotional grit was ramping because my in-laws from India were planning on coming to the US for the very first time. Okay, so stepping for the very, very first time to the US from India, like, oh, and that to LA, while we were starting to have this like full initiation into parenthood, birthing our baby boy, I started to get contractions, and that started on a Monday. And we were taught all of the things. So we were taught, okay, go for walks, walk the baby out. I was doing all of the things that everybody says to do, right? I created my playlist of all of these incredible, amazing songs to get me into my sensual prowess, because I wanted to feel sexy and I wanted to feel alive. And I wanted to, get more into that sensual side, because I knew that I wanted this potentially orgasmic birth, right? And so I giggle because it was a great intention. And childbirth is one of the most incredible experiences of our life, when everybody says that. And if you have the opportunity to go through it naturally, I mean, kudos to you. I have cousins who have done it, and who I like adore and respect so much, and friends who have done it. And this was kind of this initiation for me, and I really enjoyed this walk. And so that Monday, I head into full blown in the evening of what started to be contractions, but then it would stop and start. And so this went on, you guys, for 7 hours that night on Monday. Okay, there was no real progression. Ajit starts getting super excited, and basically it's not going anywhere. So my labor stops Tuesday morning. So Monday night, we didn't get any sleep. Now, Tuesday night, the same thing happened. So all day we're like waiting. What are these contractions? Like, we're so confused. And then we're also like, oh my gosh, like Ajit's parent is arriving tomorrow. So in my mind, I go to straight up Indian, good girl, good daughter vibes. I'm like, all right, we got to get the house ready. Like, so all of these things are going in my head. By the way, note to self, don't try to get your in-laws or your parents to come the week that you're delivering, because it is just madness. No matter what, all of these like internal triggers are going to start to pop up. So for myself, it was just, okay, are they going to be okay with this? How am I going to feel with them being there too? And so luckily we got them a separate Airbnb next door, which was great. And so Tuesday night, what happens again? I go into somewhat of like contractions, but they're not progressing. Again, Tuesday night, no sleep. So then on Wednesday, my in-laws arrive, and that's when my contractions start getting more and more rampant. So we're like, okay, I think this is the day. So we call the midwives, we call the doulas, and basically I had one of each, so midwife and doula. And they come to our house and they check me. And you guys, for those of you who know, you need to get to 10 centimeters in order to push a baby out. I was still at 1 centimeter dilated. It was crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, 2 days, I haven't slept. I'm getting tired. I'm like, okay, so how do we know, like, how long is this gonna go? Ajit's starting to get worried. And then of course his mom is like, what is happening? What are you guys doing? She's not believing in anything that we're doing, right? She's like, why are you not going to the doctor? So there was a whole like series of these initiations and boundaries. It seemed as though that was happening. So a lot of emotional grit really coming to the surface here. But still, I went on with my 90s playlist. I'm like grooving and dancing, taking my hot baths and hot showers. And at this point now, my sciatica is starting to flare up. So my legs were starting to get super heavy. I started to feel sciatic pains. I wasn't able to eat anything. I was starting to have massive heartburn because my son was born with a full head of hair. Anyways, and so we get into this whole experience Wednesday night into Thursday morning, no baby. We're still in it. And this is when I'm like, oh my gosh. And so the same thing happens on Thursday. And that's when Thursday night we had my chiropractor come, and he's this like big LA chiropractor, and he's literally this big guy. And so what he does is he actually positions you, because sometimes your pelvis is kind of blocked from really opening up. And so he was kind of trying to do body work. And at this point, I'm like, I just need you to massage my legs, because sciatica, for those of you who've never experienced it, it's the worst pain ever. And so we get into him. He's just trying to like make the right kind of adjustments and massages so that my contractions wouldn't be as, of course, painful. And at this point, they're really getting there. Now I'm just exhausted. I am so tired. And I kind of confided in my doctor. His name was Dr. B. So I kind of confided in him. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. I think I need to go to the hospital. I'm ready, you guys. Like, I've met my edge. I've learned what I needed to learn. And I think even Ajit was also like, I think we've had the greatest like ayahuasca ceremony at this point. Like, he's like, okay, we've surrendered. We knew that he probably, baby boy, it just wants to come out whenever he wants to. And that's so reflective of how Arie is as a human being right now. And my doula, of course, and midwife was just like, well, no, remember you said when you meet your edge, you're like, all right, cheerleader, we're going to keep you going. And I had told him this is our agreement that we had started with. So you guys, they were like, no, you're not going to go to the hospital. You told us to coach you through this. So here I am. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, no, but really, I'm ready, you guys. I'm so ready. So finally, Friday morning, we made it to Friday morning, and I'm like, you guys, I really, I can't do this anymore. And they're like, all right, let's just try one more time. Let's see if you can walk, and we'll take, you can bounce on your little bouncing ball. And I'm doing the bouncy, and I'm like getting in the bath. So I'm doing this whole circuit like 3 times, and they're really trying to get me to kind of calm and relax. And this is when the contractions were like starting again, stopping again. And I just need to sleep at this point. So at this point, I'm like, please let me sleep. I'm in so much pain. And so finally, we call the backup OB doctor. And the backup OB doctor is like, well, I'm not in Santa Monica. I'm actually at a different location. You can come here. And at this point, we're like, okay, yes, let's go. And so we're making our way to this part of LA, and I'm like, I don't even know where we're going, but we're going to, this MLK hospital, basically MLK Junior Hospital. We're like, okay, never heard of it, but fine. We're going to go where my backup OB is. And then we get there, and then, oh my goodness, I'm like, where are we? My husband's like, where the heck are we? Like, this is not, are we in a safe space? Like, it just was like run down, like, buildings. And then you see this beautiful brand new hospital. Like, I'm talking brand new hospital. And we get there, and there's a line out the door, and we're like, okay, can we just jump the line? Like, I'm literally screaming and crying. My husband's like, we need a wheelchair. My doula's just like, let's get her up to the maternity ward. And they're like, nope. Sorry. And the guy couldn't care less that I was screaming and hollering. Like, he's just like, you got to get in line. You got to get in line. And then my husband's like, can you not see? She's ready to have this baby. And they're like, you got to get in line, because there was not just one security area, but there was 2 security areas. Little did we know we were in Compton, which is Linwood of LA, but in this beautiful brand new hospital, and they were very secure. This hospital was, right? And so for those of you who don't know Compton, you can look it up or have never heard of it, but that's where we were. And I get up to the maternity ward, and I was like looking at these doctors, and I'm like, So it was like, this kind of come to Jesus moment where I'm like, thank goodness I'm here. give me that epidural, give it to me now. Like, give me that cocktail right now. I need to sleep. So they gave me whatever they gave me before the epidural, and I rested for like 2 hours. And at that point, I was just like, it was this full circle moment of like, oh my God, I'm back in a hospital, like a hospital bed. And this was a place that I avoided for like the plague for many, many years of my life. And there were a lot of flashbacks coming back to, of course, my losses and my parents and even my brother, having just these visceral moments. But this time it was different, because this time I was like, oh my God, this is the place that he is supposed to be birthed at. And my doulas came bringing in like their crystals and, you know, the faux candles and just this like dim lit ambiance. And because this was like a teaching hospital, literally the entire ward was like residents and doctors. And we started chanting one of the mantras that one of my dear friends, Marissa Peer, gave me, along with another hypnotherapist. And then we basically just played the tunes in my hospital room, and it just was the most beautiful and just magical moment. And literally after that resting period, I got the epidural, and literally I like blossomed. I dilated to a full 10 in less than the time that it took me to be at home. It was like I had all of this this stress. And I wasn't opening fully for me to really birth out Arie. And in such a short span of time, basically, with everybody around, you know, I was able to fully get into my body, even though, and they gave me what was called a walking epidural, and it was very light, but whatever it was just enough so that I could feel my son, Arie, being born that Saturday, October the 13th, in the most beautiful, perfect way, with, of course, so many Filipino nurses, and then the doctor there, and my backup OB. He was just super chill, but with my full team right by my side. And I pulled him from out of me, and I took one look at him, and I'm like, this was all meant to be in the way that it did. So